Hi, I'm Dr. Melissa Patton, and welcome to Off the Record podcast. As you can see, we're right here in gorgeous Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we are here for Everything Space Symposium. I am so excited to introduce you to our guests, show you some of the awesome things that are going on as far as all of what's best in space and tech. This is Off the Record, and I'm Dr. Melissa Patton.
Off the record.
Hello. I am Dr. Melissa Patton, and this is Off the Record. Always unscripted, behind closed doors, and some amazing talent to just get us through our day. This is a true pleasure. I have the opportunity to say I have a true dear friend who is a bad mamma jamma, and she is Dr. Stephanie Sherby. Yes. She is in the space industry and she does have doctor in front of her name. We're going to be talking all about that today. Dr. Stephanie Sherby is the SVP and GM at All Points Logistics, headquartered in Merritt Island, Florida. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sherby. How you doing?
It's a great Monday, and although it's a little rainy, that it is delaying a rocket launch, Falcon Heavy. But it is an amazing day to have here on what we like to call the Space Coast.
Yeah, it is a pleasure, dear, to have you. And I hope that we can just get super cash and just kind of help people understand that at the end of the day, you're a real person with a really big job. And so I want to bring them in. I want to loop them in. But first off, we have a confession to make, ladies and gentlemen. We are not at Space Symposium like we were supposed to be. And Stephanie, you're going to have to share with everybody why we did not record this during Space Symposium. I'm outing you on this.
Although all of us who attend Space Symposium, at all 40,000 of the industry, we at All Points had an amazing event come to fruition. You know, there's many milestones, as we all know, in getting a large multi-$100 million project off the ground. And the line of business that our CEO, Phil Moncrist, designed 4 years ago called Space Prep was delayed, not any fault of All Points, but a Scrub J environmental inspection, because you can't really relocate them, water, utilities, and then, of course, just a signature on the use lease of 64 acres right on Kennedy. What's so wonderful is that it was announced at Space Symposium, a signing document with Janet Petro and our CEO. Colonel Zabrinsky was there from the Space Force. So it was a really unified 100 people in our booth there to celebrate this solution for the nation. If we're going to launch every day, twice a day, every hour, we need to solve all of the logistics bottlenecks that are out there. And it's not supply chain. It's the real down and dirty logistics of getting off Earth. And Phil Moncrist has had a great solution, and now everyone's on board, and we'll be putting a shovel in the ground soon.
Woo! I need some confetti to pop up. You went right in. I was basically going to say it was Stephanie's fault because we kind of pushed our way through the Space Florida the Space Florida happy hour. So I, in true Melissa fashion, found Stephanie at the restaurant with a client and walked up to Stephanie and said, "Stephanie, we're doing this recording." And Stephanie looks at me and says, "But we're meeting with a client, Melissa." Before I knew it, we were racing over to the Space Florida happy hour. She was invited, I wasn't, but we were able to watch the spectacular fireworks display, which actually showed Artemis launching, which was very, very cool. So we didn't exactly make our deadline at Space Symposium, but I'm so happy you shared, Stephanie, about just all of the feels that surrounded what I call the handshake scene around the world. And I was hanging out with All Points folks the entire time at Space Symposium and had no clue that this handshake was going to happen. I felt so out of the loop, but so proud of your company.
Uh, you know, within this industry, we're not as classified as the Space Force. There's a lot of great things happen in the Space Force that no one will ever know, for another 25 years. But in supporting this particular logistics mission, we will also be supporting the Space Force. But so much of what occurs in this industry is close hold.
Yeah.
And that will continue to happen as we go to solve a lot of these problems. The government is moving fast. The government is still moving in a direction that will save the taxpayer dollar, use it efficiently and effectively, yet still have the public-private partnerships that will help our government really move forward with advanced solutions. And that's what's really cool about space prep as well.
You are approaching it from a comprehensive, forward thinking kind of perspective, which is very refreshing. It's not something that all of us have the opportunity to do. Not everybody can move as fast. And so I've got to believe that's because of your courageous CEO, Phil, and the amazing leadership team that he has around him. A leadership team that I've gotten to know pretty well, kind of like you guys, but you all are at everything. Number one, okay. I went to DC. Space prep was there. Took pictures with the boys. I'm in Colorado Springs. Space prep is there. But I know that this journey, especially for you, Stephanie, has had some ups and downs, some positives, some negatives, but also some really courageous moves that you've personally had to move forward. If you don't mind, as much as you want to share, tell us a little bit about your past. How did you get to become this SVP and GM of All Points Logistics? I mean, did you just wake up one day and that's who you are? Tell us a little bit about the story.
Of course not. I spent 30 years in the United States Army, both active duty and in the reserves. In the middle of those 30 years, I blended a civilian career in logistics and commodities with being a logistician in the military. And in 2005, received not the typical deployment order of 6 months or 9 months. I received a 24-month deployment order.
Oh my goodness.
Big Army said, you're coming to work for us for 2 solid years. So that did really close out the civilian career that I had been building for 15 years, I guess it was. And really loved how that it kept rounding out what I was doing for in logistics for the government and as a military officer. I decided after that 24 months that I wanted to return to the commercial industry, private industry, and the Army had a different idea. I ended up staying mobilized for 10 years. So I was reservist, was promoted twice during those 10 years. Really was exposed to fabulous leadership that our Army was utilizing and employing to fight the war, right? OEF and OIF. My tour in Afghanistan was with one of the 3-letter agencies. And so I was able to apply my logistics background and expertise in a 3-letter organization in Afghanistan. And that was kind of I thought was going to be the end of my career. And instead I was called up by Forces Command and the United States Army Commanding General, it's a 3-star, to stand up a watercraft brigade. The Army has a lot of watercraft. So I was asked to come up with something creative. Oh, by the way, here is your MTO that we've created, which is your military table of equipment, and how many personnel you're on to have. And there's you and an E6 that have been assigned. Go figure it out. And by the way, make sure that this organization is fully functional within 12 months. Sure.
Yeah.
But my background, having had that varied background, put me in a position to make that successful. And in 9 months, we not only did a mission with 47 soldiers, we did it alongside another similar unit so that we could do some OJT and really learn how to be who we needed to be. So that was really a wonderful way to end my military career. I moved from there. I moved to Florida, and that's where I met Phil Moncris. And what makes you successful and willing to work those extra hours is having an organization that you're tied to that you really believe in. So I did that in the military, and Phil Moncris has a company that's just like that. The vision, and then he allows me with a title. The title's immaterial to actually execute what we need to do, not just for space prep, but also for the managed contracts that we have, both as a prime and a sub, supporting Air Force and MDA and NASA and a few other agencies and services across this great nation that we call the Department of War now. So that's been, it's just highlights of what brings you to where you are. Combined with that, you have your personal challenges. All of us have such personal challenges that create that undergirding foundation as we stay resilient and trudge through those as well. And I give a great deal of acknowledgement is really the right thing to the personal challenges and overcoming those, and how that all blends together to make us where we are now and where we think we're going to go. Age is just a number on a piece of paper that someone put on a birth certificate. how, how we choose to stay in shape, how we choose to smile every day. Monday mornings are tough. You're looking at that to-do list. Sometimes the first call doesn't go how you need it to go. And you pick up a phone, you call the Melissa Pattons in your life and say, guess what? This has been a tough morning. Let's, help me refocus. So it's a lot of the personal choices that give strength. It really is. The friends, staying connected to your family and your roots, and then tying that to what you decide to do as a professional person.
Not a lot of people get to hear anybody in your role be that transparent. And I know that's not easy, because when you're out on the floor, we both know that there are few and far between of women like us out there. And while we don't make a big deal out of it because we're used to being around a lot of men professionally, it's still, where do I fit in, and how much do I share, and how much do I not share? So for all of you guys listening out there, you're kind of in for a big treat that she was able to be that transparent with the battle between, this is what I do and this is who I am, but these are the struggles. And I think when we all weigh those two things, we have to realize you've got to have people in your life. And I may or may not have gotten on the call before Steph and I went on the recording and shared with her I was having that type of morning. Please talk me off the ledge. But we all need those people in our lives. One of the things that has intrigued me, Stephanie, about you, and if you want me to pass on this one, you just give me the head nod. But you're on quite the fitness journey. And not because you're losing weight, but because you feel like it's important to be balanced as far as your health is concerned. I think that is really interesting timing, considering the travel that we've got going on right now, the back and forth you're doing to Alabama. Would you just speak to that a little bit, just how that's impacting you professionally and personally?
Oh, absolutely. I got to a point in my life that, which very recently, that I recognized I am not hungry. I don't, so there's not a trigger going off, oh, I need to go eat. Um, in a minimal research, you can find the reasons why your body is saying you're not hungry, and it's holding on to a fat that has a density you don't recognize.
Yeah.
Right? You don't recognize that density, and so I've decided I needed a holistic health coach at the VA. I have a dietitian at the VA. I have a primary hair care. I can go to the gym and have a physical trainer, but it's in three silos. And that's not really how we solve and
Mm-mm.
get to a solution for a problem. You've got to bring all those silos together. And so I found someone that works for me. She probably wouldn't work for everyone, but she works for me. Uh, she doesn't make me talk to her every day. Uh, I'm not accountable to a piece of paper. I'm accountable to 4 or 5 different factors. Weight is just one data point. It's the other things. And when she interviewed me, she had asked because she refused. She will take on everyone,
Sure.
and so we're talking through things, and I made her laugh a lot because I think I'm funny. But one of the
You're funny.
one of the things that I had said to her is I said, knock on wood, I've never broken a bone. And I don't want to ever break a bone. So as I age, I've got to have the right physical makeup to prevent breaking a bone because I'm going to fall.
Yeah.
Those things happen. I have fallen 20 years ago. I fell on the ice 30 years ago, on a military mission, one of those, it should be on television on a comedy thing because, your feet go flying up in the
Yeah.
air.
Yeah.
I didn't break anything. Well, how do I make sure that doesn't happen in the next decade when something like that happens again? I'm very active. I want to stay on a two-wheel bike. A friend of mine a month ago said, yeah, I can't handle she's 67. I can't handle a two-wheel bike anymore. I'm afraid I'm going to fall. I'm going to get a three-wheel. No, not getting a three-wheel bike, right? I power to her that she found a way to still get out on a bike. But what do I need to do? And that's why I had to step back and say, I can't solve this by myself. I need an SME. And this particular SME will help me tie those three things together and work towards a solution. So yes, that is something I am trying to do simultaneously with everything else because you can't have a balanced stool.
Yeah.
A visualization I've used for years. Many women have three-legged stools and not four-legged stools. Right? So if you have 4 areas of your life, your health, your spiritual life, your professional life, and then everything else is personal. It includes your hobbies, your marriage, your children, right? You have 4. So if you are a single woman, you don't have maybe a really strong personal life. Your family lives far away. You're too busy to keep your friendships going. So you've got a spiritual life, a professional life, and your physical life. So
Right.
if one of those 3 starts to fail, think about sitting at your bar on the bar stool. You lean back because you just lost one of those legs. You are pretty darn rocky sitting on two legs. So if you can have all 4 legs going and one of them is weak, like my health was weak, I'm still leaning on 3 legs. It's
Yeah.
pretty darn solid, right? I can still rock around. I'm still
Yeah.
solid. So I recognized I had a weak 4th leg and really had to do something about it.
Mm. A weak fourth leg. Stephanie.
And I use bar stool because,
No, I
need a
really
glass
hope
of wine
people
once in a
heard
while.
that.
Yeah.
And this is not for just women. I think what you're sharing is a balance that everybody could use, especially the people that are listening that have just as crazy lifestyles as we have, where we're on a plane, off a plane, at a conference, not on it's the constant flow. Uh, in your dialogue, you kind of helped us wrap ourselves around your job, okay? Which I know me asking you what you do is it's kind of redundant. You do a lot of different things for a lot of different people. I get that. So I'm not going to ask you that question. But what I am going to ask you is what does a day in the life of Stephanie look like? But I want 2 days. I want the day before you go to Alabama. And I want you to talk about why I said it in that way. So the day before you go to Alabama and the day you leave for Alabama. And walk us through a day in the life for you. Maybe throw a deadline in there, a contract deadline. We're going to spice it up a
Oh,
little bit in our last minute.
oh, just like yeah. So I could do January or March of
Yes.
2026. Uh, January, uh, January, a friend of mine passed away. And so I was heading to Alabama. So the day before, I'm prepping for being a part of the services of the funeral, as well as wrapping up my desk so that I can have a productive week, visiting and meeting with different industry partners while I'm there during the day. So the day before flying there in January was really stressful, and I didn't make it to the gym. I didn't go for a jog. Nothing happened that day before. Pretty much just got packed and had and went to, but I did go to church that morning. That's Sunday. I did make it to church. Monday, flights at 6. The flight was at 8 a.m. out of MCO. So up early, driving over to the parking spot, getting to the airport in time, getting a cup of coffee. Plane lands at 9:30. I was at my first meeting at 11 in Huntsville at their office, and then had 2 more meetings before I finally got to my friend who had lost her husband. And then we spent that evening, luckily, just the two of us. Nobody else, everybody else had left because he had passed away Friday. So everybody was in town those 3 days. But she was very intent on me being there Monday, and it worked out because she called me and she said, I need a wife. I need a friend who understands what I'm going to need all week, and I can't tell them what I need. I just need you to be here. We're 40-year friends, so that that evening was really about her and what do we need to knock out the rest of the week. And of course, one of the things she said is, and I'm going to call and schedule a pedicure because neither of us have had one.
No.
So, those lifelong friends, you drop everything and you go take care of them. But I still was able to bill 8 meetings in that week, Monday through Thursday, making that Huntsville trip really valuable for Phil's company. We have an office in Huntsville, so yes, Huntsville is an easy one. And my friend actually still, lives in Huntsville, so it all came together and was able to knock that out. But that's just 2 days in January.
Just another Monday, right?
Just another Monday. Just another Monday.
Stephanie, what I love about you is how I first met you. I knew about you before I actually had met you. I was at an AFCEA meeting, and it was my first time being there. And these women came up to me and they said, "Oh my goodness, have you met Dr. Sherby?" And then another woman came up and said, "Oh my goodness, have you met Dr. Sherby?" And I said, "Who is this chick? No, I don't know her." And they said, "You all have such similar personalities and you get things done in the same ways." And I was like, "Well, then I need to meet her." And then they all went away and I was sitting there by myself. And this beautiful woman with so much poise and posture and confidence walks up to me and she says, "Hey, I'm Stephanie Sherby." "Who are you?" And I was like, "You're Stephanie Sherby. Makes sense now." You have you've changed a lot of people's lives. Me being included in that, men and women. And those are the things that you don't hear. You don't hear about your positive impact. You don't hear that your work is seen. You don't hear that we understand the struggle, but we never ever actually see it on you. And to be sitting in front of someone that is as accomplished as you are, that's had the life that you've had, it is truly an honor. I'm trying to hold back tears as I say this because I feel some sort of way about this. But Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for being personal. But also thank you for being the consummate professional that you are and holding up a company that I believe we'll hit the $1 billion status very, very soon. But most importantly, that will provide a solution, a much needed solution to a problem. In these last couple seconds, Steph, I want you to share whatever we didn't talk about, whatever's on your heart, however you want to end us up.
I have my Women in Defense name tag on for a reason. There are so many women in defense supporting the national mission. And what's so fabulous about Women in Defense and FCA and SFA and all the women that are involved in that is that we are professional friends and we choose to take the next step and have that deeper relationship with each other that benefits not us personally, but also the industry. We create an amazing, strong web that's going to continue to move this country forward. And I'm so glad to be a part of that Women in Defense, the women in this industry that's going to be helping get this country off the earth more often. And as I like to say, turning the moon into a gas station.
And that's a good way to end it. So this was Off the Record with Dr. Melissa Patton, special guest Dr. Stephanie Sherby from All Points Logistics, SVP and GM. Thanks for tuning in, and we're out.
We're out.
Off the record. Let's get to record.